I'm your host, Hamtonio. What you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself. And what you think of yourself depends on what you know of yourself. And what you know of yourself depends on what you've been told of yourself. Welcome to the show. Got a great show for you today. It's a lovely day. It's going to be a hot one today. So make sure you hydrate. Bring your water with you. You know, everybody's going to that watermelon. So go out there and get you some seeded watermelon, okay? And eat you some. That's your H3O there to help hydrate you. You can also get some cucumbers. That is good as far as hydration is concerned, because a lot of things can take effect in the body if you are dehydrated. I'd like to thank everybody again for coming out to the Taste of Africa Festival a few Sundays or so ago. I appreciate your participation there. And I'll also like to give big ups to Carolyn Phillips Bay. She surprised me with getting with me and helping out the whole Carter G. Woodson program, and I like her. I appreciate her patronage and her appreciating what we're doing, here on this network and in the community. So big ups to you guys, and also Sister Brenda as well. She's been a forerunner and been with me for a long time, and also Sister Priscilla as well. So I like like to give thanks to all you guys for hanging in there with us for all these years. In the remote studio, we got our good brother Vince. What's going on, Vince?
Well, it's funny you would ask that question because there is a lot going on today. We had a magnificent evening last night on Larchmere with the opening reception for the Larchmere Cultural Arts Festival, and then the performance by Dr. Mary Weems, and I was also involved in that performance. So it was a great evening. Today, we are going to ramp things up, and we're going to share a lot of information with you about that. But first, we're going to talk to Dale Heinen. Dale is the executive and artistic director of the BorderLight Festival, the BorderLight Theatre Festival. It is a magnificent event that happens every Sunday. I've been privileged to be a participant. I will be participating in this year's festival, and we'll give you details on that. But first, we're going to bring on Dale and let her give you some information about the festival and what you have in store for you. So, Dale, welcome to 360 Info Network. It's a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you both. Thank you so much for having me, Vince. We're thrilled and
delighted. All right. So tell us about this fantastic festival. How was it born? What is the intent of it? And what can we expect to see?
The festival started about 6 years ago. 2019 was the first one. It became an annual festival in 2023 after starting as a biennial. And now we're here every July for about 4 days in the Playhouse Square neighborhood. Lots of different venues all over, not just in Playhouse Square itself, but places like the Hermit Club, Parnell's Pub, all across the CSU Theater and Arts Building on 13th Street, Playhouse Square Plaza. So it's a big spread out event with lots and lots going on, indoors, outdoors, free and ticketed work.
Okay. And I know there's probably a lot of information out there about how folks can take advantage of it. Can you share with us some of the marketing that you're doing for this?
Yes. So we do a lot of social media posting, and you can follow us at BorderLight CLE. Social media is across all the platforms pretty much that you might use. We also have a newsletter that you can sign up to at our website, which is www.borderlightcle.org. And that's getting the newsletter is probably the best way to kind of stay on top of what's going on during the festival period. And our website is full of information. There's a visitor's guide. There's a whole, which every single show has its own show page. You can buy tickets from there. And the visitor's guide also includes, where to park and how to navigate across the festival footprint and where to eat, that kind of thing.
Yes. So it's characterized as a fringe festival. Can you explain to the listening and viewing audience what that means? What does it mean, fringe?
That's a good question. So fringe festivals are very popular worldwide. There are about 300 of them. In all sorts of places as diverse as, Reykjavik to Delhi to, Pittsburgh. And so now we are Cleveland's first fringe festival. And what that means is it gives our artists an opportunity to self-produce their work. And producing a play is a very complicated and difficult thing to do. It's expensive. It's logistically challenging if you've never done it. Pulling in an audience is very hard, let alone producing a quality piece of work that people will pay to see. So what a Fringe Festival tries to do is to make it easier for artists to do that. It's a platform that we present. We rent the venues, we pay the rent up front, we pay the box office staff, we train and recruit volunteers. We do a lot of marketing, although we don't do all the marketing. A lot of that does still fall to artists. And we sell your shows. So we have a box office, and we have box office associates and a staff to kind of help make all the logistics work. And then the artist brings the show. So artists like Vince and Dr. Mary Weems, they create a piece, and then they plug it into the space, albeit in a very quick period of time. We have very short technical rehearsals. We have very lean tech in these spaces, but really it's about the storytelling and the performers and the words. So you don't need a lot of high tech to do good theater. This is my really staunch belief, from doing this for so many years. It is really about the talent of the artist and connecting them with audiences. And the artist takes it from there. So that's the thrill and excitement of a Fringe Festival, is that it's opportunity for artists and access for artists and audiences to connect.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of followers who love this experience of going to a show for, it's not expensive either because the audiences, it's less investment for the artists too. And then the experience happens in the room, and it could be a 10-minute play, it could be an hour-long play, it could be indoors, it could be outdoors, it could be devised work, scripted plays, circus, stand-up comedy, storytelling, you name it, we've got it.
So you've been doing this for a number of years. Are there any performances or any shows that stand out in your memory as memorable?
Oh, so many. I guess one that really stood out for me was in our first year. It was when Felton Thomas, the director of Cleveland Public Library, was still on our board. He served 2 terms on our board. He just rolled off last year, and because of the anniversary of the Cleveland Public Library, they invested in an amazing full-scale African animal puppetry parade down in Superior. So these were white, kind of ghostly-looking puppets that were life-size and entirely realistic. There were elephants, there were giraffes, there were ostriches, and they were very skillfully manipulated by local puppeteers who got trained by this master puppeteer. And that was just such a spectacle. And Japo Cultural Arts accompanied them. And so there was like drumming and there was dancing. And that to me was just breathtaking and probably, one of our most exciting moments to date in the festival. So we love to do large scale spectacle when we have the opportunity. And the library made that possible, which is amazing.
It was a few years ago. I can't remember the exact year, but I remember going to the Old Stone Church downtown on Public Square. And the reason that I went is because something called the BorderLight Festival was taking place. And one of my dear friends wrote a play called Hey Siri.
Yes.
And I went to see that play, and it was directed by Michael Oatman, who was another one of my favorite people in the theater world. And that's my connection to BorderLight. So what I'd like to do is introduce you to Dr. Mary Weems.
Hello.
She did that wonderful play. Daryl Tatum was in that play. He's one of my favorite local actors, and it was just riveting. So I can see the value in this festival, and I just want to ask Mary what it was like for her to witness her work on stage in BorderLight.
Well, in one word, it was wonderful. I'd like to tell a little bit about the catalyst for the play. I was rehearsing with Ebony Edwards, a local actor and mentee of mine, in the basement, and she was getting ready to play all of the characters in my play At Last, celebrating the lives of Black women. So I asked her to look up on her phone to see if she could see some movement by Josephine Baker. And when she got ready to research it, she said, no, it caught me. And when she explained it to me, it immediately sparked a play. So before the day was even out, I started writing it, and by the next day it was done. And the surprise for me was I thought it was going to be a negative play about technology because I kind of have a problem with it. but it turned out that Hey Siri was a lifesaver. The other thing I'm glad I did is I had originally written it as a voiceover, but I decided to make her a character, and she was played by Michael Oldman's ex-wife, Michelle Broom. Wonderful, because since it was focused on the story, Michael Oldman didn't need a whole lot of props or a whole lot of nothing. He just pretty much brought the actors out, had a couple of boxes for them to use, and they did the story. And the audience, this is the most important part, the audience seemed to love it. So really, it was a wonderful experience for me.
All right. Well, you mentioned Michael Oatman, and we are privileged to have him aboard with us too. So, Michael, if you could reflect upon your involvement in the BorderLight Festival and the production of Hey Siri.
Yeah, it was fabulous. We had a great time. There's something about a fringe festival where there's that compression of time where it has to be done sort of in a very finite amount of time. It really helps you focus on the decision. It really matters in the script. It's almost what I like to call essential theater, because you have to get down to the core of what this is really about. And we had a phenomenal time. I mean, we were shocked at what we end up coming up with. It was one of those things in which it was the sum was greater than, well, how do you say, was greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah, in a real way, where the words just blew us away. And some of the monologues were some of the most powerful things I think I've ever done in theater. It was a really, really moving experience.
And Michael, would you say, Hey Siri, that series wound up being the star of the show?
Say again?
Would you say Siri wound up being the star of the show?
Oh, for sure. For sure. It didn't start that way, but as the show progressed, that's sort of where it developed, where Siri became this sort of surrogate for people's loneliness, this connection to the world. And I've never seen my phone the same way.
And wasn't it Michelle's first time acting ever?
And she was phenomenal as the voice of Siri.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Dale, you can see how excited participants are about this particular festival. I want to give you another opportunity to let folks know how they can get their tickets, how they can become involved, and how they can get the benefit of the creative energy of artistic community here in Cleveland.
Absolutely. So you can visit our website at www.borderlightcle.org to learn more and buy your tickets. You can also call our box office, and you can put that number up, which is 216-356-6485. You may get voicemail. We don't have full-time people work on the box office, but they will call you back. And also our box office will be open in the festival footprint starting on Wednesday, July 16th from 5 p.m. Through Saturday, the end of Saturday. So you can just walk in there. Our main box office is at the City Club again this year, which is right there on Euclid Avenue, right near Playhouse Square. So very accessible.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Look forward to participating in the festival. And just so you know, my mother is traveling all the way from Chillicothe, Ohio. She's going to stay at the Crown Plaza so that she can come see her son participate in this festival. This will probably be the first time that she's actually witnessed one of my performances in person in the city of Cleveland. So I'm really looking forward to that happening. And I thank you for making it possible for that to happen. So thanks for joining us today, Dale.
Thank you. That makes me so happy to hear, and just wonderful to hear about the experiences. Hey Siri was one of those shows that really did just take off and word of mouth, and the buzz was so good, and that can happen with shows, and that is what we want to see. So I'm so glad to hear.
All right.
Thank you again, Dale, for all your hard work. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Nice to see all of you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So now we can talk about the Larchmere Cultural Arts Festival. This festival is happening because somebody named Mary Weems came to me and said, let's do an event at Larchmere Arts. And she had an idea about doing a quilt that she was going to use to donate to the cause and assist me in raising funds, because it's difficult to raise money for stuff today because everybody is asking for your money. So it was just great that someone would come and say, "Hey, I want to do something for the space." She came to me and she said, "Yeah, let's do this event." And she had contacted Rodney Carpenter and Bonnie Venable, and they joined us for a meeting, and we talked about what we wanted to do. And then after the meeting, this light bulb went on in my head, and I thought, we could do a few other things too. And before I knew it, it ended up being what it has become. So, Mary, I want to thank you for the impetus. What was your original idea, so that the listening audience knows?
After I saw an exhibit of Bonnie and Rodney's work at Larchmere Arts, Bonnie's work really connected with me. Rodney's always has, but it was my first time experiencing her work. And I had the idea that I wanted to do a small event where the focus would be on my crochet art and poetry book, Vince's photography and poetry and music, and then Rodney and Bonnie's visual art. That's what I took to Vince. And at the time, I remember using the term KISS, keep it simple, stupid, because I was thinking something small and tight that would draw an audience to our work, and maybe we'd sell a piece or two. That was my focus.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, the event that we had last night kind of illustrated that.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
Because it was small, it was tight, But just being able to offer opportunities for others to share the stage, I think, was the idea that I had, and that's how we ended up connecting with Brother Michael. Michael Oatman, for whatever reason, I think that you direct plays, Michael. I know that you write. When I was looking at the synopsis for your film, I saw produced. So what is it? Is it producing, directing, or all of the above?
At this moment, I guess all of the above. I'm a typical Cleveland artist. So here in Cleveland, we tend to have to kind of not wait to be picked by the gatekeepers. We kind of got to just get out there and make it happen. And that's kind of, I think, a Cleveland trait. I really do.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Michael, because there's a whole lot of gatekeepers.
Oh yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons that we have to take it upon ourselves to do what we do. Hamptonio, Lynn Hampton, has been producing things here in the city for a long time. He came up with an idea called the Truth Series, and he was bringing in scholars like Ashra Kwesi and Professor James Small and Dr. Charles Finch and Leonard Jeffries, a whole bunch of luminaries in the field of intellectual thought to Cleveland. And if we sat around and waited for the other folks to do that for us, it would never happen.
That's right.
So it just underscores the importance of us taking the bull by the horns and, moving things towards something that amplifies what we do. Lynn, if you would like to share a few comments with us about the importance of doing what we're doing on Larchmere, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, it's always important. Just like I stated in the last show, I'm going to bring a global piece to anything that I'm talking about right at this point. And I'm real concerned about where we are as people in this point in time. And we always discuss the importance of art, the importance of how it motivates people to do things and to move. And as far as the system is concerned, that is something that they try so hard, and that might be why some of these gatekeepers are the gatekeepers, to try to streamline what they want to be produced out there. Because let's be honest about this thing is about keeping things in control. and being in control. That's why we're in the state politically that we're in right now. And people have went out their way to try to control all means of information. You know, even when you're dealing with, you know, even with music and things of that nature, arts and music, they motivate people to do things.
That's right.
And so, and if people is in control of those things, then they can kind of taper off and taper what, you know, is being out there and actually kind of dictate what motivates people or what gets people to move. So, you know, how Cleveland is, you know, people always used to talk about it. If you be successful in Cleveland, you can pretty much go anywhere else and do some things because it's hard. You know, not only did we, you know, we start this Truth series. You know, I started one of the only Black History parades in downtown Cleveland. You know, and you talk about raising money and pushing people to try to see what your vision is, man. You got to be strong. You know, that's why most Clevelanders are strong. You know, because they have to pretty much get out there and push the needle and make it happen in order to get the recognition and that you need. But unfortunately, you know, sometimes people have to go somewhere else in order to get, you know, the tools and the things that they need and the recognition that they need in order to produce what they're trying to do. So just like with the parade and, you know, and things like that, unfortunately, I may or may not be doing it as, you know, no more, but that's just the state of consciousness of where we are right now. So as far as the Larchmere Arts stuff is concerned, you know, we have to have more programs like something else, you know, having some tutelage situations going on and teaching kids and younger adults, you know, to the importance of being able or having the platform to express themselves. And for me, in this point in time, that expression should be, far as if it's geared to Black folks, it's geared towards letting them know who and what they are, you know, as people, as culturally, as people. You know, I'm a firm believer of if you feel better about yourself, you do better about yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
so we right at this point, we need that inspiration with the political climate that is going on right now. They're trying to take away so much. That means we got to step up our game. So, and things like that, we have to use it in the means of supplementing or replacing some of the things that the system might be trying to take away from us. You know, getting our adults involved as well. You know, we got to train our adults because the kids can't go back into, you know, some oblivious situation going on at home. They got to be fortified with the home front as well, and our community has to know the importance of this and where we at right now.
Well, I will say that there was a great degree of intentionality about this being a cultural festival and relating to us. You know, we're living in the midst of pushback on us celebrating ourselves.
Yes.
So the art exhibition was entitled Shades of a Human Existence, HUE, man existence, celebrating cultural identity. This ain't about them, this is about us. I want to make that perfectly clear. And we don't necessarily have to code switch or code speak. We can just be authentically who we are, and that's what we're doing. I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about the films that are going to be shown today. Mary, you have a film in the festival. Michael has 2 films in the festival. And I think we mentioned last night that those films were partly a result of us having to pivot during the pandemic. So I don't know. Was this your first film, Michael?
No, I've done a few.
Okay.
In the past. Yeah.
All right.
I've dabbled a bit in the past.
But you made a conscious decision to do film because we weren't being able to be on stages. So can you talk about your creative process and a little bit about the film that we're going to be showing?
Yeah, the film that I'm showing is part of a series. One of them is part of a series called Handmade Films. And one of it was I wanted to kind of address sort of the lack of representation of African American females sitting in the director's chair. We just don't have a lot of them. Like we have tons of black women who act and do that, but for some reason, as directors, we just don't have a lot of it. So somebody told me, well, if there's a problem, why don't you fix it? So I was like, oh, okay. So what I did is I grabbed some cameras and grabbed some scripts, grabbed a couple of crew members, and we just went out and we shot films. We ended up coming up, I think, with 9 films from African American women who told their stories, and they turned out to be fairly brilliant. I mean, at first it was just the idea of doing it really was the purpose. But once we actually got the films in there, we were stunned to find out that we actually had pretty good pieces of art alongside that. You know, it wasn't just some nice thing to do to train African American female directors. They were turning out some pretty darn good art, really darn good. I mean, we were like blown away by what we ended up getting.
Yeah.
And we did it almost no funding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, to hear you say that and to reflect on the glimpse that I took of the film, it's got a really great look to it. Again, I'm saving the view for today so I can see the film in its entirety for the first time. But the glimpse that I've also had the privilege of seeing films by Dr. Mary Weems. I saw Socks at the South Euclid Library. I think it was a couple years ago. It wasn't last year. I believe it was a year before.
I think it was the year before.
It was a year before. So I know what you're capable of. So I don't know anything about this film that we're going to show today called Slapped. Do you want to tell us about Slapped?
Yes. The Slapped Like Socks was turning a play into a film. And so Slapped is about what happens when a young Black Lives Matter activist woman and mature white woman meet in an elevator, get stuck in it, and have a conversation about race. And at some point during the play, a slap is exchanged. And my purpose is a short film, and my purpose for doing the film is in the hopes that university faculty, community folks, and maybe high school teachers will consider using it as a jumping off point for an open, critical discussion about race. You know, with this current attack, and I know that there are people who feel one way or another about diversity, equity, and inclusion programming, but anything white folks really don't want us to do is something we definitely need to be doing. It's just like having laws against us learning how to read. You don't have laws against learning how to read for people you think are 3/5 human.
That's right.
So my idea is to promote, just like with Socks was to fight human trafficking, and I've been using it for that. Slapped is to get people talking openly and honestly about race. And the one thing I want to share as a detail.
I'm gonna stop you right there, Doc.
Okay.
Why you think that we still having this issue about talking about race? Why is it?
Well, two things. White folks really don't want to talk about it, and if they don't want to, they don't have to. Mm-hmm. And the second thing is there are not enough of us fighting to make sure it happens and to keep it out there.
Okay. So you think we kind of acquiesce it back because it made other people uncomfortable?
Yes.
So we start talking about it?
Yes, I do. Okay. And my thing is, like I have told many students and blah, 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 it's in the uncomfortable place, if you allow yourself to be in it, that a possibility for change in you can happen. Y'all walking around here feeling uncomfortable, but y'all don't mind how uncomfortable I feel damn near every time I come outside and have to encounter white folks.
But that's what 47 say about, you know, the history stuff is making their children feel uncomfortable. But our kids got to see us as as pimps, as whores, and slaves, and all that. What do you think that does to the But like I say, issues are not issues unless it affects the other side. As long as it affects this side, it's okay.
That's the truth, and that just emphasizes the importance of us finding some kind of way to come together. I'm talking about collectively and nationally to affect our own damn change, because that's the only way it's ever gonna happen.
Yeah, I so agree. I keep emphasizing over and over and over again how important it is for us to provide the narrative, because we've been getting their narrative for so long. We get their narrative and then we accept the way they define us. It's just like them always referring to us as minorities.
We never have been.
Than anybody else. So when you accept
all
that
over the
label,
world,
you accept subjugation, and we have to change that. Mary, I'm thinking about Socks and the way you did that film. It took place in that house.
Yes.
I think the entire film was in the house. So when I think about you being in an elevator, I can kind of reflect on the intensity and the intimacy that's involved there. So I know that there's going to be a certain level of intimacy simply because there's enough conflict to result in a slap.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, and then the other thing that kind of occurred to me is you thinking as a playwright as opposed to necessarily thinking about about it as a filmmaker, because as a filmmaker, the establishing shot for so many films is a drone or an airplane or a helicopter flying over a city. Like, this is where we are, folks. So you can look at some buildings. But in this case, you're not having that. You're going straight to the heart of the matter, which is the discomfort that happens in that small space. Brilliant, my sister. That was brilliant. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Any thoughts about what I just shared with you?
Do you realize we just blanked out for a minute? Did you see that? Okay.
No, I didn't see it.
Blanked out. So I didn't hear the last of what you said.
I was just talking about the fact that you have intimacy and intensity in a small space, and I can see that expanded that, and you're capturing it in a film. So we can have kind of a theatrical experience, and that will be in a quote unquote theater today, which is Larchmere Arts. But I was just wondering your thoughts about my observation of your process and your thoughts.
I'm so glad you asked that, because one of the things that I've learned about myself a long time ago is what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and how to stay in my lane. So the first blessing was Ashley Aquila did the very first play she ever directed was one of mine. And this was a while back. So I've worked with her as a director many times since then. So I trust her as Kim Woodson's husband is an amazing and experienced cinematographer. So I knew that when it came to making it into a film, I didn't have to do a final draft, screenplay, format. All I had to do was send him the play, send Ashley the play, agree to the casting Ashley came up with, and then get out the way and let them do their work. Now, I had a couple of notes about things. So, for example, for Socks, I told her no one can wear socks, and then at no time can the actor wear socks. And then for Slap, the slap itself was very important to me. And when it comes to actors, there's like giving them the real slap is often a problem. So Ashley chose to figure out a way to do the slap so that it's very believable. Because for me, that's the most important moment in the piece. And beyond that, I step back and let them do their thing.
Okay, so was there a slap, or was it something that simulated a slap?
I'll let you see. You see.
Okay. You know, it just occurred to me, Mary, that there was a slap that took place at the Oscars a few years ago.
Yes. I don't give a damn how many times Will Smith apologizes. He is on my shit list forever. Because that little lame ass joke, as a matter of fact, it was more of a compliment because Demi Moore looked damn good with no hair in that film. Also, if you don't want people to make jokes about you having alopecia, wear a wig. So that little joke that he told him he was allowed to slap him and stay and pick up his Oscar, I hated that.
You know, there is urban legend via the internet that a slap like that actually occurred on a previous occasion.
Oh,
which, yes,
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
a slap like that occurred. And so what happened on that Oscars stage was a reenactment of something that happened before.
What?
Yes, yeah, it's amazing. So there's more to it than we're being told about that. But I think what happened as a result of that is that we spend a lot of energy and a lot of time just thinking about what happened, you know, and that's one of the ways that we're affected as human beings in this society in which there's so much control by media, so much control over the information that we take in. And again, that it just underscores the importance of us telling the stories.
Did you see Selective Outrage? Selective Outrage?
I did not. No.
Lord, take the time to go back and watch it. Because anybody who thinks that there was anything fake or staged about that slap will change their mind when you just see the look on Chris Rock's face when he talks about it. And I recall Tony Rock saying, I wish he'd have slapped me, I'd have beat his ass.
Yeah. Okay. I just have to remind you, Mary, we're on terrestrial radio.
Sorry. Sorry.
Michael, I'm interested in your thoughts about the importance of the narrative. Obviously, you are a writer, you've written films, you've written plays. In your view, what is the importance of us being the storytellers?
Well, ultimately, it's the only thing they can't take from us. They can't take the narrative. I mean, you know, I've had ups and downs in my career as a director, as a producer, as a this or as a that, but they can't take this pen out of my hand. and believe me, many have tried to wrest it from my fingers, and I'm happy to say, from my cold, dead hand, you can't get this pen out of my hand. And that's all about being able to control the narrative and letting that narrative live. They can't control that.
What type of stories have you told, particularly those that uplift us as a people, or any that you can think of right now?
Well, I mean, one of the bigger things that I like to do is I really love to make history live, and just have it live in a real and fresh way, especially for new audiences. So I just did a series of pieces about the Green Book and what that meant and how that was important to our people and how it literally was a life and death book. Because, I mean, depending on what was in that book, you could land in a place that could get you killed. It was life and death on American roadways in America. And a lot of people have forgotten that for a black man or woman or a family getting into a car and starting up an automobile and getting on a freeway, it literally could mean death, depending on what town they landed in. And I just wanted some of that history to live. So I did a series of things for Caramoo where I did a bunch of vignettes where we were talking about different hotels and sites that still exist in Cleveland and in Akron. And I wrote situational plays in all of them. And also finished a piece about the 1967 Muhammad Ali Summit that happened here in Cleveland. And it's a piece of history that, unfortunately, some people have kind of forgotten about when he was deciding whether he wanted to go to the draft or not. And it was a collection of some of the greatest athletes ever. Bill Russell, Jim Brown, all meeting, Muhammad Ali, all meeting here in Cleveland to have a summit. Being able to live with those voices and create that narrative is literally what what helps me enter the world. That's the way that I enter the world, is through that historical lens.
Yeah. That's a great segue into the idea of the film that I did about Winston Willis. There's a marker, I believe, somewhere in the vicinity of 105 in Euclid that commemorates that event, that summit. And it exists in a space that has been completely taken over by Europeans. Cleveland Clinic, University Circle, and the sad part about it is that we don't look back and connect with the historic impact that event had, and that's one of the reasons that we have to continue to do what we're doing so that we can shine the light on things that they want us to forget about.
That's right.
The idea that you would kidnap somebody, take them 3 hours away, hold them for 2 weeks, and then tear down everything that they had ever created.
I never knew that.
Yeah. 2 weeks to tear down all of his buildings, and he came back to nothing. And then the complicity of the local media and the complicity of politicians who facilitated the whole process.
Yes.
It's just a stark reminder of the reality about how racism has affected us in the city, and how we can be oblivious to it now.
That's right.
Which is why we have to keep telling the story so that people do not forget. There are so many people who were impacted by what Winston Willis did. He got so many people employed. People were able to have a livelihood that they could pay for their groceries and their rent and so forth and so on. And that's huge. When we think about employment in this country, most of the jobs are small businesses. They're not the Amazons. They're not the Walmarts. They are everyday people who have businesses and put folk to work. So you cannot overstate the importance of what Winston Willis did, but you can also not overstate the importance of remembering what he did. And perhaps what he did can be an inspiration for someone young to do the same thing.
You know about Steve Rogers, the series of grocery stores he had?
Tell us about it.
Well, he had a series of
was the only black-owned grocery store.
Yes, black-owned grocery stores. He had a series of them, and unfortunately, he got caught up in drugs. And one by one, they closed down. And as far as I know, how many black-owned grocery stores are in the city of Cleveland now?
Yeah,
I don't know of any.
Yeah, with that, I think it has something to do with the shrimp boats as well. But
I hadn't thought about those two.
Shrimp boats as well. But see, again, I look at us. I look at black folks. We got short memories, for number one, and some folks may not recognize it, or they may not want to accept it. But because of the type of conditioning, mental conditioning that has taken place as far as black folks is concerned, we got this high desire and need to be accepted.
That's right.
Accepted. We do a lot of the things we do to get acceptance from the system. So we go along, we stop telling our stories, we stay confined in a certain thing, not to, say this or not to say that, and basically from what we're looking at, you're under attack, and you don't realize how much that you are under attack. Those things that Vince said about Winston, I mean, we can tell story after story after story, or you can get in this, just like what Dr. Claude Anderson said, that back in 1865, we owned a half of 1% of the wealth, and it's the same as it is right now. And what brought that out of me, because I was listening to Roland Martin talking about how, and I thought about what Vince talking about how the Arts Council and a small percentage of monies that we have contributed to us as well. Even when you're speaking on the DEI stuff, found out that blacks is still on the bottom of the totem pole.
That's right. That's right.
Stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying he was talking about the lack of money that he was getting for his media platform during the campaigns of, you know, that he wasn't getting none of those dollars, all those billions of dollars floating around for advertisement, you know, campaign, you know, for political campaigns. You know, he didn't get none of it. You know, none of the money, you know, and all these other Viacom, all these other folks getting it. So I'm saying you can tell story after story after that, and it seems like black folks is numb and quickly forget on what's going on. You know, and the analogy that I came in, here we are as black folks. Somebody, your neighbor, will roll on your grass, and you won't speak to him for about a year because you're mad at your neighbor because he done something to you, and you got 400 years of somebody doing stuff to you and putting you in the back seat, and you still want to be accepted.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
You know, and you won't speak to your neighbor for he doing something. But you go across the board on everything, and you see that you the last to know this, you the last this, you on the bottom of this, you got substandard food, substandard health care, substandard
public education.
Public education, you know, you the last and you get the less of everything, and you still want to be accepted by the system, man. And we got to break this mental problem that we have here, you know. So hopefully, maybe some of the things that I hate to say, that sometimes we got to be in dire situation, or our butt got to be on fire before we move on something and make something happen. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, but the system has told you that forever. And folks don't go through these processes, like you said in the beginning, sister. You know, folks don't go all out their way for some people that's 3/5 of a man. They know how powerful you are. They know how strong you are, okay? And so you can do this. We can do this. If we built this country, why can't we take care of ourselves and build our own communities and be a community inside of a community? Why can't we do that?
That's the truth.
We've done it before, but we don't get complacent. You know, we'll become consumers, and consumers lack the ability or the motivation to build their own institutions. You're perfectly fine, but by attending and letting somebody else do the show. And I'm gonna close on this one. You know, just like, you know, just lets you know that something's wrong with, you know, we're mentally ill, as me and Dr. Whitaker said. You know, in a sense, you running up 80% of the talent pool of these folks going up and down these basketball courts and field is your talent. So how you sit up here and let somebody else run your talent pool for you, and you don't get
you don't even own a team?
That's the craziest thing in the doggone world to me. You know, nobody else will sit back and let somebody else cherry pick all your talent out, treat you like you on combine, like you are back on the slave block somewhere. Or he can run fast. He can and be okay with that. We should be to the point. Okay, hey, we might not can't get the big stadiums right now, but guess what? We can start, and it would build up. You know, to run our own movie houses, to do our own sports teams and things of that nature. And black men, how we sit up here and let somebody keep taking our monies out of our communities, our resources, and we don't make them pay homage to doing business in our community. That is crazy.
Have you heard?
You always have to pay the house, man.
Have you heard about Ice Cube? What Ice Cube has been trying to do, and he can't get any play for it? He's been trying to start his own sports league.
Wow.
For a while.
They're going to put all kinds of stumbling blocks in front of you. So,
yeah. I want to jump in and just reflect on something that you piqued, Hamtonio, when you mentioned 3/5 of a human. How ingenious it was for them to do that, because the concept around 3/5 human was characterizing us as property, as chattel, and not even as human beings. But when, again, you get to this power to define issue, the fact is we're more than human. And that's what they want us to forget. We are more than human. There's a song out a few years back, somebody saying, I'm only human.
I remember that. Yeah.
Remember
yeah.
that song? And I'm thinking, okay, well, obviously you have forgotten who and what you are, or maybe they just didn't know. But the fact is that we are more than human. And that's another reason that it's so important for us to do what we are doing. I want to talk about some of the other things that are going to take place today, because at 1 o'clock, we're having a writer's workshop. And the writer's workshop is around the idea, manifest your book. You think about it, but then you make it happen. And you can do this and push back on the standard operating procedure that puts us out of an ability to be published. Folks are publishing their own books these days.
Right. Yes.
And, just like folks say, well, I'm going to do a play. You could do a play on a porch.
Right.
You could do a play on a street corner. But you have to have the idea and the energy to carry it out. And people will become engaged in it because, the nature of a play is folks have to use their imagination to bring things into fruition. So this writer's workshop is really important because it will empower folks who previous to that didn't have a voice. So you can come to this workshop. It's going to be at Larchmere Arts at 1 o'clock. Nicole D. Miller is going to facilitate, and she is going to assist you. If your desire is to be published, it can happen as a result of this workshop. We're also having a shorts film festival following that workshop. So you'll be able to see Mary's film Slapped. Michael has a couple of films that are going to be in this. We have some other great projects. Wayne Smith is a young filmmaker. He's got 2 films that we're going to show. Tossing you a little surprise there, Mary, because you didn't know about Max Gaines, but we're going to throw that in there today.
Okay.
Peter Lawson Jones is part of a film project in which he is the principal character. It's called Purgatory, and it is a horror film. So it's going to be interesting to see that. Jefferson Jones has a couple of films. One is called Foul Women, FOWL Women. I think that's the second film that you have in the curation that you did for the flow of the festival. But he also has a film about the Sideway Bridge. And this is a piece of Cleveland history that many people probably don't know about. So again, it underscores the importance of us being able to tell the story, because then you get a true glimpse of the history, the real history, and not the history that they want to tell us that causes us to forget who we are.
I have one request.
Yes.
Can you put Max's film at the very end, since I took so much time to put the pieces in a flow?
It's going to be the last film.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be the last film. I spoke with Wayne a couple days ago, and I shared with him that we would be able to do that for him. So it's a short film, so it'll be just fine.
Oh,
so,
Vince, I have one more suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
We need to take a break in between, at some point in between, because that's too many films to sit there and watch that whole time.
No, actually, what we're going to do is we're going to have comments from filmmakers.
I know.
So that it will break up. It'll break up some. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we'll have an intermission so folks can gather themselves, because it's a festival in an afternoon. Film festivals often take up an entire week.
And the other important thing about breaking is maybe somebody will see a piece of art that they might want to purchase.
Yes. Yes. So we got just a few more moments in the program. I want to get to some of the other things that will happen before we break the show down, because again, we got to get over to Larchmere so we can make things happen. So we're going to have that film festival, and then after that, we are going to have a poetry slam that's going to be hosted by Michelle R. Smith, and it's going to happen at Larchmere Arts. We got some judges involved. We got some young folks involved. So if you are a fan of slam poetry, you will definitely want to be there for that this evening, and that's going to start at 6:30. Tomorrow, we're going to have an ekphrastasy event. So the work of Bonnie and Rodney and Mary, because she's got some pieces that are up in the space as well. You'll be able to look at those and then interpret what you see, write a poem, and share the poem. So this isn't just about being passive, it's about being involved in the event. So you can come, write something, share it, and we'll move things forward. Following that at Unbar, we're going to have a digital photography exhibition that's going to feature the work of about 10 or so photographers, and we're going to have an artist talk from Jeff Lawson, who was an Ebony Jet magazine photographer and worked on the Donahue Show. So he's got lots of insight to share about his career as a photographer. And then we're going to have Hugh People Vocal Ensemble close things out for us. So after all that we've done, we'll have the gift of song and music by Seco Salinas, Anita Rose Banks, and Stephen E. Boyd. They put a lot of work into what they do, and we are going to be so pleased to see what they bring to us on tomorrow evening, and that is going to start at 7 p.m. So all that is in store for you at the Larchmere Cultural Arts Festival. I keep telling her, but I'm blaming Mary for this, because if it wasn't for her having this idea, we wouldn't be doing all this. But I'm enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to the other things that will happen. Any concluding remarks before we shut the show down there, Brother Lynn?
No, just it's good. Just come on out, enjoy, and absorb.
Okay.
Amen. And I just want to add, you have an opportunity to experience the work of some amazing Black artists across mediums. Don't miss it.
Yes, thank you. And to Miss Brenda, the film start at 3 o'clock. So from 3 till about 6:30 or so, we will be in film festival mode. Hope that answers the question for you. We would also like to extend an invitation to you. If you're in the neighborhood, go on and hit up that African drumming class. It starts in about 1 minute.
Nice to meet you, Lynn. Nice to meet you, brother.
Yes, yeah, yes, sister. Likewise.
All right. So we're going to close things down. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channels, The Journey with Antonio, Vince Robinson. I think I'm about 31 people away, 31 subscribers away from the magic number of 1,000. So I'm really excited about that finally happening. Also want to take this time to acknowledge our engineer, Tone Harley, my brother. Without you, this would not be possible. Thank you for what you do for 360 Info Network and the greater Cleveland community. And most of all, thank you to you for being a part of our show. You know, we've been doing this for over 20 years, and it wouldn't be possible without you. So as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your best day. Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.